Hello, and welcome back to the Nourish with Purpose podcast. It's Bailey, and I hope you're having a great Wednesday or whenever you're listening to today's episode. Today's episode is a very exciting one because I'm actually sharing the gender of our baby on today's episode, something that I have eagerly been waiting 21 weeks to find out, and we found out yesterday, well today technically, but if you're listening on a Wednesday, we found out yesterday, and we really, I don't know, I'm very, very excited. I'm very excited to share, but I'm actually going to wait till the end of today's episode to share, just because, got to make you listen to the full thing. But I am talking today all about pregnancy. Some of you wrote in, you had some questions, and I'm just going to do my best to share my answers to them as openly and honestly as possible. Something that I do want to preface this with is some of the things I talk about you might not agree with, and that's totally cool. I really don't want any other mothers to feel shame or like I'm judging them if they do a different method, or close friends because they're pregnant at the same time as me. If you do something differently, totally cool. I just honestly ask that you respect the same for me and what we are deciding to do for like birth and post-birth and all of the things as I just start to share more about it, which I'm not going to talk too much about postpartum stuff on today's episode. I really want to dedicate a full episode just to that. But some of the questions do touch on how I'm doing things a little bit differently and how I'm taking maybe a more holistic approach to the whole journey of being pregnant and delivery. And so just ask that you respect what I decide to do and just understand that it's all coming from a place of wanting the best for my baby. Of course, that's all what we want to do for our kids. And it's coming with a lot of research behind it and a lot of just deeper thinking on things that I've felt very aligned with and things that I haven't felt aligned with, and ways to go about delivery that I don't love, or how I want to nourish my body maybe a little bit differently than what's typically recommended. This is me talking about my own experience. I don't know you and I don't know your body, and so therefore I'm not giving you nutrition advice for you to specifically follow during pregnancy. I want to make that very clear, because although maybe I do things differently, that's not to say that you should or that that's recommended for you. Again, I just want to share very openly about what I've been doing and how I'm doing and just all the things. So with that, let's jump into the segment about how I'm nourishing my mind, body, and spirit. That is really how I'm going to kind of catch you up this week. Really how I'm nourishing my mind is this last weekend, I took Friday at 6 p.m. until Sunday at 7:30 p.m. off of my phone. Actually had my phone shut off. Didn't turn it on. I only turned it on Sunday morning to listen to Christmas music, and on Saturday I used it to watch YouTube, but I had turned off my cellular and Bluetooth and everything so that I wasn't getting notifications because I didn't want to. My friend Lyndon actually had asked me if I would do this with her, and I was like, I would honestly love nothing more than to do this. And so I decided that I would just honestly spend as much time disconnected as I could. And it's really interesting, even on Sunday, I didn't really have a desire to turn my phone on. Even at 7:30, the reason I did is because I was creating the baby registry and I wanted to go back and see different things that I had saved on TikTok before, just different brands that I had seen moms post about. So that was the only reason where I was like, okay, I'm going to turn this back on. But outside of that, I truly just let myself be bored this weekend. And I honestly kind of used it as a social experiment too, to see how other people respond. And I've noticed that when you're on your phone less, the people around you are on their phone less. On the other hand, you might notice some people that are on their phone way more than most, or way more than maybe normal. But for me, I honestly felt like I noticed the opposite. It was really nice to spend that time with Nathan, my husband, and just relax after working Saturday morning. I work at a coffee shop. After that, though, it really was just a pretty relaxing day. I started reading The Nightingale This was probably about 2 weeks ago. Just been reading like 1 to 2 chapters before I go to bed because it helps me fall asleep. And I've really, really loved the book, but I finished that on Saturday and then on Sunday, and then on Sunday I started The 4 Winds. If you're looking for book recommendations, cannot recommend Kristen, I want to say Hansen, but I'm not 100% sure that's her last name, but she wrote The Nightingale and 4 Winds. Gosh, now I'm second guessing what that's called, but it's about the Great Depression. The Nightingale was about Nazi Germany and how women had helped kids and mothers throughout that time, and it was just really fascinating. So I usually am not a historical fiction type of gal, but there was enough romance, enough action, enough information that I feel like maybe I didn't learn in history class, and I feel like it was all very accurate because, and again, it's not based off of a real person's journey, but a lot of research I know goes back into creating these books. And so highly recommend if you need a good book to pick up. It is like 400, almost 500 pages, which I was not expecting. So it's quite a dense read, but it was very worth it. Very much enjoyed that. But again, like I just let myself be bored, let myself lay on the couch and relax, and it was wonderful. I honestly might start doing that on Sundays or Saturdays, probably honestly Saturdays, just from here on out. I'm doing that dopamine detox, which if you'd like to join, I do have a little PDF, or it's not a PDF, it's a photo, I guess, that I've created with kind of the breakdown of what I'm following for the dopamine detox. Part of that is getting rid of short, quick like platforms like Snapchat and TikTok where it's not long form content, and also creating boundaries around Instagram and when I scroll, which I have to admit I've been really bad about. Nathan had even said yesterday, he's like, you need to be honest with your podcast that you were watching TikTok last night. And I'm like, you're right, I did. I thought that it was deleted, but I just think with what's happening in the world right now, I just like to go to TikTok sometimes. Probably more of that brain numbing type of platform. It is, of course. And so I did break that, and I've not been perfect, but it is just nice to have that in the back of my head and to honestly know that I can go 48 plus hours without even looking at my phone and be totally fine. Like, you will survive. You, in most instances, will not really miss anything that's happening. The hardest part was that I text my mom a lot, I feel like, and then she was texting or calling my husband if she needed to get in contact with me, which was totally fine. It wasn't a big deal, but it was funny. She was like, I had been over there to exercise on Saturday or Sunday. I can't remember which day it was. And then she called Nate and she's like, hey, I need to ask Bailey something about Christmas gift we were talking about. But outside of that, like really, I don't feel like anybody needed me. I didn't feel like I missed out on too much. So that was really refreshing. How I am nourishing my body. I feel like it's going to be the same almost all the time, but I've really, like I've said, have prioritized strength training, and in addition to that, prioritize rest. I haven't always emphasized rest. Definitely one who likes to move my body and has in the past had a kind of an addiction to exercise, and just because I love it and it's just a good outlet for me. But I have been taking my Tuesdays and Thursdays just to really walk and do some stretching, do some pelvic floor exercises instead of feeling like I need to do a workout, because my Mondays and Wednesdays are so full of exercise. I lead an early morning class and then 2 classes in the evenings, both of those days. All of them are 45 minutes long. So it is just more intense days, but then on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I've been finding ways just to increase strength training. And I will say, and this kind of goes along with a question that was asked, but how body image is going, and to just like briefly kind of encapsulate it with this kind of intro piece, the weekly segment. Honestly, I feel so strong and very empowered to move my body and still be able to have such strength throughout this pregnancy. When you have morning sickness and you have a couple weeks where you don't feel awesome, to then feel very energized and just strong, like you're eating good food, you're doing what you need to do to take care of yourself. It just feels really good to move and to just lift heavier weights. So that has been very empowering, honestly, and I've really just enjoyed that honestly, since probably week 10, I've really put a focus on how can I make moving my body more consistent and in a way that I feel like I'm supporting my pelvic floor, my core, all of those deep muscles that are being stretched and pulled right now as baby grows. And overall just feeling strong so that when I enter into postpartum, it's not like my body is, I don't know, feeling weak or feeling like it needs so much like support through gaining muscle back. And I just don't, I know, and I'm not worried about the body image piece of it after I deliver, but I think more so of just like still feeling strong, knowing that I'm not working out because I've already built a pretty firm foundation with increasing strength and increasing muscle mass during pregnancy. And finally, how I'm nourishing my spirit. I feel like something that happened recently, this is more of a story than how it's really being nourished probably, but on Saturday and Sunday when I was down or kind of like laying on the couch reading, Nathan came up and was reading his Bible while I was reading my devotional. And I feel like that time together, even though we're doing different things, it really just like fills my soul to have that time to like sit on the couch, again, both do our own devotionals or reading the Bible, but at the same time spending that time together. It's just really special, and it makes me very happy just to look over and see him reading his Bible. I don't know, I love it. So that was something that was really special. This weekend we had some time to do, and then actually on Monday as well after exercise class. Okay, so I guess we should jump into the book of today's episode. I'm going to pull up my questions that you guys submitted, and really, none of them were too spicy. So thank you for that, because this is, a family-friendly podcast, and my mom listens to this, my grandma listens to it, and people in my community listen to it. So I appreciate the lack of spice. Really just a lot of questions about nutrition. So I'm going to kind of like piece some of them together and hopefully answer some of them in one. I don't want to keep you here forever because I did get quite a few questions, and I'm very eager to look into them and just answer them a little bit more in depth. So we're going to start with body image because I feel like that's something that I recently just touched on. But when it comes to body image during pregnancy, I will say this is something I was very worried about, because just with my history of always kind of hating my midsection, I feel like there's, as women, we can kind of pick our bodies apart, even as men. I shouldn't just say women. But that's always been an area for me that I've been self-conscious of, that in my legs. Like I just have always had that, and I think it got really bad there for a while, and now I feel very comfortable and at a place where I'm really am at ease with that, especially as your belly grows and clothes start to not fit you, or even clothes that were baggy before that don't fit you, pants specifically. Like I have my favorite pair of jeans from Madewell, and I was like, well, maybe we can like get these suckers to work. Not gonna budge, like even hard to get over the hips. And I think that's probably the most difficult part, is just seeing like your rib cage kind of expand, your hips kind of expand. It's obviously all for a purpose, and we've been created to do this as women, so it's like our bodies know what to do, but it is something to just like see that happen so rapidly. I've obviously experienced weight gain in the past, but when it happens so rapidly, it's just a completely different feeling. And like I had mentioned, shopping for clothes as well was like a little not defeating and not really even frustrating, just kind of annoying. So I ordered some pants, like I mentioned, from Free People. They work, they're fine. But I've noticed that my torso is so elongated now because, when you carry that weight a little bit lower, then when you wear pants a little bit lower, you need shirts that are a little bit longer. And so all the mid-length shirts that I would wear that were like the perfect length for my torso length, those are all way too short. So now I'm like, okay, well, it's not really cute, I feel like, in the area that I live, especially with it getting cold, to like have your full belly out and showing. More power to the people that do that. For me, I don't really feel all that comfy with it unless I was like in a swimsuit on a beach somewhere warm or where it was warm all the time. But where we are in Nebraska, I'm going to keep it a little bit more covered. So it just is a different level of effort when it comes to get ready. Like we were late for church on Sunday because I just could not find a shirt that was long enough that would work with my outfit. It was a whole ordeal, which it's like not something that upsets me, but it's just like, okay, I know that things just take a little, like it's going to take a little bit longer to put an outfit together using what I have. And and I'm fine with it. I just need to be better about planning ahead time-wise because my body is changing. And I'd say, again, that's just the hardest part with the body image piece, is that it's changing rapidly. Like over 40 weeks, your body goes from being what it was to completely different. And then after delivery, I know that will be a whole other mindset thing, body image thing for me to work through and navigate. But for now, I feel really content, very at ease with my body, and very appreciative of what my body's able to do. Like, it's just incredible. Okay, another question here. Would love to hear about all the things you are looking forward to in motherhood. I feel like for me, I'm not somebody who has always really loved kids. And I was never the girl in high school or junior high where it's like, oh, we need a babysitter. We're going to call Bailey because she just loves spending time with kids. Not really. I have select kids that I like to spend time with, family I like to spend time with. I've never really been the one to just love babysitting or love watching other people's kids. Again, there are exceptions there. But so I think that's why for me it was kind of hard to be like, okay, like I'm meant to be a mom. We're going to be a mom before I even got pregnant. I mean, I definitely was ready for this phase of life to come. It's going to be so different, and it is so different when it's your own kid and you have just that different bond with them. I'm definitely looking forward to just meeting their sweet little face. Like I feel like time goes so fast yet so slow at the same time. Just even like thinking about prepping the nursery and what that's going to look like and creating a registry. Like there's just so much excitement and anticipation around it. And I'm really just like looking forward to having that connection with a kid that I've never had before. Again, because I've just never really loved kids that much. And just to have that connection and cuddle together and be able to have someone to take care of. I think for sure in those first years, like it is so crucial that the mother or father is there to take care of this child. And I will have the ability to do that most days of the week. My work schedule will definitely change, but I'm ready to have something outside of myself to take care of. And of course, yes, I have my husband and I have a dog, but Nathan is so independent and Loon is as well. And I take care of clients all week. Like it doesn't feel like I don't have something to take care of, but I just want something just like so perfectly curated for our family, which is what this baby is just something that is just going to be so special. Like it's just a special feeling. And I really don't even know how to even describe like what I'm most excited about. I guess all of the things I just said, but there's just all those like little things. Meeting them for the first time, of course, is like that number one, just honestly cannot wait. So from there, I'm going to have to update you on how that all goes and what I just continue to enjoy throughout motherhood. I'm very blessed to have the job that I do and be able to have more of a flex schedule so I can spend time and a lot of time with our baby and really be there, especially in those first few months for them and with them and just spending my days just soaking it all in. Okay. Other questions here. Did it happen naturally or were you trying? So I will say we were trying. It's not that we weren't trying to have a kid. It wasn't a surprise. When it happened, before I even took a pregnancy test, I just kind of knew. I don't know how to explain it, but I just had a feeling. I'm like, I think I'm pregnant. Like I think it's going to be yes. And we took the test and yes, it was positive. So we were trying, but in a sense, I feel like we weren't trying to the point where it didn't become something that felt natural, I guess, is if I'm I don't know, don't want to be too TMI here, but it definitely wasn't like a forced thing or that we felt like we really need to make it happen this month or this next month. There wasn't a lot of pressure around it. So everything felt very natural, but we were trying to conceive a child just with the timing of everything. Okay, so then are you planning on doing a natural birth? Actually, I'm going to go back up to this one. Are you finding out the gender? If so, what is it? Yes, we're finding out the gender. I'm going to announce that at the end of today's episode, like I said in the beginning. The next one here, are you using a midwife or doula? We are using a midwife. I have yet to decide if I want to use a doula just during delivery. I have the best husband to become a mother with, and so I know that he will really be there to support me and what I need, and I feel like he could stick up for me in certain situations if I needed him to. And I really trust the midwife group that we're using. We're going through a group out of Lincoln. They're connected to CHI Hospital, so we go to a birthing center to actually do all of our appointments. So they're certified nurse midwives, and they will really be taking control over the entire birth experience. I always thought that's kind of what a doula did, but a doula is more so there to be there to support you and to help you kind of relax and give you the things that you need, whereas the midwife is going to help like change positions during labor and help you with contractions and obviously do much more of the actual delivery part. So for the most part, I really think I'm just going to utilize our midwife and probably will not be using a doula. Okay, we're going to get into the nutrition with pregnancy piece, but I want to touch on the question, like I said before, are you planning to do a natural birth? Yes, I am planning to do a natural birth. This is something I feel like sometimes I say, and then certain women, and there's nobody in mind, but like that there's kind of like this belief of like, oh yeah, you think you will, but you don't know how painful it is. You know, it's almost like that, well, you're kind of naive, you're not really sure what to expect. And although that's valid, 100%, I'm not saying I know everything about birth and delivery and all the things, because I have never experienced it. But what I'm doing is I'm already prepping myself to know that it will be a natural birth, obviously, if able, best case scenario, with very, very minimal medical intervention. And this kind of goes into, somebody had asked like non-traditional things that I'm doing during birth and during pregnancy. And I would say that's probably more of a non-traditional thing. We are not in the state of Nebraska able to deliver at a midwife center, which is really frustrating. That's something that changed actually in August. I really think it comes down to like greed and these hospitals wanting to make more money, because there was no malpractice, nothing bad that necessarily happened at this midwife clinic for that to not be an option. I just think they want you to be in a hospital. And I often get, I've heard this when I tell people that, like, well, we're going to CHI or we're like whatever hospital, I'm not going to give the name. We're going to this hospital, and it's like, oh, well, I'm so glad, that's like just such a safer option. And honestly, that really frustrates me, because think about how long women have been giving birth. Like our bodies, like I said, were created to do this. They know what to do. To think that you have to be in a hospital setting, I think is very narrow-minded. Although, yes, I understand if you are very medical focused, 100% get that, and 100% want to take the safest approach I can with my birth, but doesn't every mother? It's like we're not going into it trying to be hazardous or cause issues, but at the same time, like I just don't always 100% agree that it's the safer option. Obviously, for some people it is, and even just your level of comfortability in a hospital is going to play a factor. I'm someone that's not super comfortable in a hospital. Like I don't like that environment. I've worked in a hospital. I understand like going there, showing up every single day. That's not to say anything necessarily negative about the hospital I was even at, but like it's just not my favorite setting. I am an integrative health coach. Like we also have to understand the territory that comes with that. Like I'm looking at the whole body. I'm looking at low intervention. I'm looking at doing things as naturally as possible. Like that's just my mentality based off of what I've learned, and that's my belief. And I know people have different beliefs around that. But like I was saying, we cannot deliver at the birthing center, so we will go to the specific CHI hospital to deliver, but my goal is for it to be very, very low intervention. Like I'm renting a room in a hospital, basically, thankful for insurance, but I'm renting a room to deliver the baby. I'm fine with the belly band, but I don't want IVs, I don't want an epidural, I don't want any of that crap attached to me. Like that just does not feel comfortable. I'm already going into it with that mindset. And again, that's what I say is please respect that decision. If you're listening and you don't agree, that's totally okay. But I truly have to enter into that environment with that firm belief and tell myself that that is what I want, because I know me and I hate confrontation. And the second that I feel judged or looked at in a certain way for a certain desire of how I want to go about birthing this child, I will get very much like, okay, just do whatever you think is best. But that's not actually what I believe. It's more so I can avoid the confrontation piece. So that's where having a midwife and going into that setting with a midwife is nice. Also having the hospital know that you're coming from a midwife clinic. It's like, okay, this person is probably going to want some different things to happen because they're not going to a traditional hospital to do all of their appointments, all their ultrasounds, and everything in between. They are using an external resource. So that is just kind of what I'm going in with. That is my plan. Again, I know things can change. I will, obviously take things as they come and make the best decision with the information that I'm given at the time. But for right now, that is the plan. Okay. A question here. Are you doing pelvic floor therapy during pregnancy and post-therapy? If not, look into it, which I love this question because yes, I am. I'm not, I guess I shouldn't say I am confirmatively because I'm not going to a PT or an OT to do this. I actually had a pinch in my low back that was kind of irritating me a little bit. That was probably until about week 18 that I felt that. And then as the baby kind of moved more towards like center belly position, obviously low belly position, I didn't have that pinch anymore. And with having a fractured vertebrae, L4 and L5, and that bulging disc, I knew that I really wanted to make sure that my core stayed strong. So for the last 2 years, I've been doing very intentional core focused work to protect my low back just with that injury, knowing that it would also benefit me during pregnancy. So something that I've added in differently during pregnancy is I don't do a lot of like the crunches or the weighted sit-ups or the side planks. I do very modified, probably slower core focused work. So the first thing that I do is also breath work, and it's my favorite, but I do the 360 breathing. So you think about that full belly inhale and then you exhale and you like suck everything in, tuck that hip under, and you can feel like that inner part of your core just like tensing up. It's such a unique feeling, and it's something that makes my like really, really deep core so sore the next day. It doesn't feel like you're doing anything, but once you do it and you do like a certain round, so typically I do mine in between sets of my strength training workouts. And so for me, it's like I'll do 12 360 breathwork practices for one round, and then after that next round I'll do it again, and then I move to my second set. I'll do it again about twice and then move on. So probably about six times total I'm doing a set of 4 to 6 to 12. It just kind of varies, but I do try to incorporate that throughout my workout. And then another thing is doing the dead bug on your back, heel taps, doing a lot of very slow and controlled glute bridges, just some of those different exercises, modified side plank, having my knee down for support, something that I probably could record and share because I think it might be helpful. Of course, I'm not certified in any of that, but I am certified in personal training. So I feel like I was taught how to modify exercises during pregnancy and for women who are pregnant. So I've been utilizing some of those, but also using Form. I have a link for you to actually get a discount off of their monthly subscription or their annual subscription if you're interested. What's really cool is that Form has added in workouts for you to do during pregnancy, and that's been really helpful if I don't want to come up with a workout or I want to do some more core focused work and really just strengthen those muscles and support my spine. I will just go on there and they have a ton of different options. So that's also been super, super helpful. Okay. How to get protein or nutrients into your first trimester despite food aversions and nausea. Something that I learned pretty quickly on is the value of protein and the importance of protein. When I would go mornings without eating right when I woke up, and I would jump right into my day and then eat a little bit later or after my workout, I would, sorry for the TMI, but I would throw up everything I ate for breakfast. And so I really quickly learned how important it was to, as soon as I woke up in the morning, I needed to have a source of protein. Even if you have an aversion to something, I guarantee you can find a protein source that your body will tolerate. Maybe it's 16 ounces of chocolate Fairlife milk. Maybe it's a protein shake. For me, it was typically eggs. I would do 4 eggs in the morning right away. I would just do protein on its own, and then I would maybe go lead a workout class, and then I would come back home and I would do, again, another full breakfast, very protein, healthy, fat focused. So I would do a full piece of sourdough with some half of an avocado and some sausages on the side with some cilantro and berries. Just finding ways to get in protein right away. That I cannot emphasize enough. Also, I noticed when I would have sugar cravings, it was a sign that my blood sugar was not balanced, which is something I teach clients, is how to listen to different cravings. When I would have a sugar craving, I would be like, okay, Bailey, well, when did you eat last? Well, it was 2 hours ago. Especially in that first trimester, I felt like I needed to eat like a child. It was about every hour to 2 hours I was eating something. Very small, of course, but still needed something in my stomach. So then I'd be like, okay, well, Bailey, what did you have for your last snack? Oh, you had some Simple Mills crackers and raw cheese. Okay, well, we need a little bit more protein than that. Maybe we need some berries. So instead of grabbing for something sweet, I would eat something high in protein. And then if I was still having a persistent craving for something sweet, then I would enjoy that. But it's listening for what your body's telling you. I think that most pregnancy or most morning sickness can be fixed with an emphasis on protein and right when you wake up in the morning. Something that I feel like I don't necessarily agree with is the advice of well, just as long as you can keep it down, eat anything. And they told me that at the midwife clinic too, but I'm like, but the reason that you continuously can't keep anything down is because you are just reaching for the crackers or the chips or the candy. And I'm not going to lie, that was very tempting. It is tempting. It's what sounds good. Having chips and crackers is very tempting. Having breads is tempting. All those carbs, your body is needing energy. It's needing an excess of energy. And I can't disagree that it didn't sound delicious. But when I would get that signal of oh, Bailey, you really want to eat half a box of these Simple Mills crackers, I would be like, okay, well, have you had protein? Because that cannot be the first thing to hit your system. And I've heard time and time again when people tell me these issues they're having during pregnancy or how they still have no energy or they're still feeling sick and nauseous even into week 23 plus. I'm like, well, what are you eating? Oh, well, I had 4 cookies and an apple and then I came home and had some tacos. No, that's I'm sorry, but I don't agree with that. Even though, yes, you need to be eating and you want to eat things that you can keep down, I don't agree with that method, and I don't agree with just eating things because you need the food. Protein, protein, protein. If you are having food aversions or nausea, protein is going to be what fixes that. I've tried it. I've tested it out. I'm not saying that this is tried and true for every woman that I've ever talked to or worked with, but what I can say is that in my own experience, when I didn't do this and when I didn't focus on protein first, it was a big issue. So for most people, it's probably not eggs. For me, it was 4 eggs. I know that's probably more abnormal or to do with animal-based protein like a sausage link or bacon. I couldn't stand the smell of bacon. If Nathan would make bacon outside, actually on our porch in our little air fryer, which I had him do for probably a good month, I could then eat the bacon. I just could not smell it. So if it's a really potent smell, also think about how you can remove the smell from your space before you go about eating it. And again, if you have an aversion to that, go for a protein shake or Fairlife chocolate milk. I feel is the best recommendation. Something I've been giving to clients a lot recently because it's just such an easy way to get protein, fats, carbs, quick energy. It's just kind of an all-in-one. So definitely like that recommendation as well. Best pregnancy snacks. Again, I know this is going to be boring, but the core 4, anything you can do to get in starchy carb, healthy fats, fiber in the form of a fresh or frozen fruit or vegetable, and protein, your body and your baby is going to be happy. I will say I have really, really pushed the healthy fats during pregnancy to a point where I don't think twice if I eat an entire avocado and do an entire thing of guac with some crackers and some berries on the side, and really if that's my snack, like I'll do some source of protein, but I don't think twice about really overindulging in the healthy fats, because brain, nervous system support for baby and for you, healthy fats, very, very important to help, like I said, with nausea or food aversions. Protein, very, very important. And we can't forget about the starchy carbs, because your body does need the energy, right? You don't need to, I just would recommend, if you are somebody who is pregnant, like don't worry so much about the calories in your food and how much weight you're gaining during pregnancy, but focus on the quality of your food and how you're nourishing your body. For me, I feel like I've gotten really good with listening to my mind and growing that mind-body connection. I felt like it was already pretty strong, but it's to a different point where, like, if I'm hungry, like for example, for supper, I did like a skillet fajita mix, and then we put that on top of some tortilla chips and did some guac. I had 2 very, very large servings, because I knew if I ate and I sat there for a while and I was still hungry, I'm going to go get more food. Like I shouldn't say that you need to overindulge, because I think probably a most common phrase is also like, well, you're eating for 2. And really, no, you're eating like for 200 to 300 more calories a day. And that's not, again, to put that on you and be like, you need to be tracking how much you're eating, but you're not really eating for 2. You're eating maybe an extra 200 to 300 calories for metabolic function, for your body to grow and develop how maybe it ideally should be. But it's not like you need to just like eat everything under the sun, or that you have all these cravings. Again, listening to your cravings, they are telling you way more than you probably think they are. And no, like they're not telling you. So for example, a craving I had was crab ragoons. I wanted a crab ragoon so bad. But for me, I'm like, okay, Bailey, well, let's think about the components of a crab ragoon. You've got quick energy from the shell. You've got a lot of fat. Like anything really heavy in cream cheese sounded so good. And it's like, okay, Bailey, well, what maybe is lacking in your diet right now that is causing you to really crave a crab ragoon? Healthy fats. Okay, so how can I add cream cheese onto my deli sandwich? How can I add in more avocado? How can I add in more hummus and more peanut butter? You know, it's not necessarily the food that you're craving. I think it's the components that make up that food that you're craving. So listening to that when it comes to snacks, when it comes to meals, and really just, again, prioritizing the core 4. I think it gets a lot easier when you start to feel a lot better and more energized, which will happen if you focus on, I shouldn't say will hopefully happen if you focus on that protein first, which is what I've been doing, and can't complain. Now I can go a little bit longer without eating breakfast, but especially that first trimester, very, very important that I was eating at least 2 breakfasts, and not always being full, but always having enough in my system that if I ate again in 2 to 3 hours, I wouldn't puke it up, because it was like too much for my system all at once. So the smaller meals were super helpful. So even breaking up your bigger meal into smaller snack size meals might be another recommendation that I would have, that I also utilized, especially like, first trimester, like I said, or kind of into halfway through, honestly, to about week 16. I probably did more of that. Okay, next question here. What are you doing different from the norm? Now that is where I also wanted to give some nutritional things that I'm doing different that I firmly believe. And that is that the whole conversation around listeria is very invalid. If you've ever been to the doctor, and especially the first appointment we ever went to at the midwife clinic, it was like, well, don't have any deli meat, avoid sushi and raw fish and raw dairy and raw milk, and on and on and on. Really, the reason they're telling you that is because they want to reduce your exposure to listeria. Valid, obviously. But even though I'm pregnant, and maybe you're not pregnant, we both can get listeria and have the exact same negative, awful symptoms of it or side effects of it. And yes, of course, it's different when you're pregnant and you're growing a human. I understand you don't want to put that stress on your body or the baby. But at the same time, you could get listeria from any produce that is packaged at the grocery store. it is not just deli meat. The reason that they tell you deli meat is because they want you to have it at a certain temperature. And so then some people really, really intensely follow that, which to each their own. For me, when I knew I was pregnant, seriously, the next week I went and had raw sushi. It's just not something that I believe is very valid. I still drink raw milk, which I know I've gotten a lot of questions about before in the past of like, well, aren't you worried about getting listeria? The answer, long story short, no, I am not. Not from raw cheese, not from raw dairy. It's all about the quality of food you're consuming. If you're consuming a higher quality, the chances should be much more minimal. Another thing is our exposure is already, or our risk for exposure is already very, very low because I make almost everything from scratch, every meal from scratch. We wash our produce, we wash our vegetables. We don't do a lot of deli meat anyway. Sometimes we'll do a panini, which really did sound good that first trimester. I definitely made paninis a few times, like mid-afternoon or mid-morning, because I just wanted one so bad. But again, like we just don't eat a lot of things that could be contaminated. And I think it's kind of overemphasized. And you're not really told anything that you should eat. You're just told all the things that you can't eat, which in all reality is not very helpful. Because, I mean, even the comment of like, well, make sure that you're, just having some sort of carb right when you wake up, some sort of cracker by your bedside table because, it'll help you when you wake up and you won't be so sick. Kind of. Maybe if you have a spouse or, a friend or a parent that can bring you something when you're in bed, if you truly need it you have such a dire need for something immediately when you wake up, have them make you a protein shake, have them give you a glass of milk. Like, I think the protein emphasis is still much more valid. So I just don't find any of the nutrition advice to really be that helpful. And I think there's a lot of fear around it and I just noticed that like when we had gone to Jimmy John's, my husband and I, this was like I think about week 5, somebody had been like, well, like, what did you get? You bet you couldn't really get much at Jimmy John's. And I'm like, no, I just got a deli sandwich. Like my life didn't change that much. It's not changing that much. Like I'm not worried about it. It was like a toasted sandwich, but at the same time, like, which is supposed to help with killing listeria if it's present. But I just am like, I don't buy it, and I don't think it's helpful. And a lot of the advice for nutrition during pregnancy wasn't helpful. So if you need a resource, Real Food for Pregnancy, cannot recommend it enough. My friend Emily actually recommended that book to me, and it's a dense read. I utilize a lot of what I've read in there in how I practice and take care of my body now, and work with clients for maybe fertility or for pregnancy. I do utilize a lot from that book. There's also a Real Food for Fertility book that's kind of like the prequel to this, I guess. A lot of the information is very much the same. So both really good resources if you need either like snack ideas, much more specific than maybe what I've given you now, or if you just want to learn more about how all these different food groups are playing a role in the development of your child. It's really fascinating, and they go a lot in depth about all the research behind it as well. So I don't say this just because I woke up one day and said I'm not going to buy the lie that I'm going to get listeria and can't eat anything that I love. But instead, I read this book and made sure that I was much more aware of why I was eating things and why I wasn't. Another thing, a key piece of this is hydration. Making sure you're having mineral-rich water, which is already should be a focus of yours, is to be adding minerals to your water because we don't want to be drinking any naked water. We want our water to be full of minerals, which we often have to add back in because they are being filtered out just as our water goes through the cleaning process. And so adding a pinch of sea salt to my water has been super helpful. And I feel like I'm getting to the end of this because I'm really struggling to breathe. This is something I always, when I would listen to podcasters and knew they were pregnant, I felt like they were breathing a lot and taking a lot of time to like pause and take a deep breath. And now I get it. So I think we're coming to the end of this. There is a couple more things that I want to mention. Water after water. Also, I want you to think, or I really have become fascinated with the liver. and the importance of the liver when it comes to both fertility and pregnancy. And your liver has over 500 functions, which is enough to blow my mind, because I feel like all we've been taught really or heard is gut health and how valuable gut health is. But if you have certain factors like low stomach acid in your stomach that's causing you to bloat and causing malabsorption from your liver, like, you're gonna have issues. So to me, it's just fascinating that the liver is so important. But this is where I wanted to just bring in the conversation around alcohol, because when we decided to start trying, and honestly way before this, 2 years before we even did that, Nate and I both kind of understood that drinking was not a priority for us. It wasn't a big value for us, not something we felt like we needed even in our life, weekly or monthly. And I think that has a lot to do with just honestly how, and I say this very, very gratefully and very humbly, but with how low stress the whole process of conceiving was for us, because hormone production is impacted by liver, thyroid function is impacted by liver, sperm production is impacted by liver. So really, if you are listening to this conversation and you're not expecting to have a baby anytime soon, or maybe you are, or you're wanting to think about it, or you're trying, I just really encourage you to do more research on the liver and to look more into it. And if you have questions, very open to talking about it, but thinking about all of the things that are maybe harming your liver. For us, I think alcohol, and for almost everybody, alcohol is going to be that number one for the man and the woman. And just something that I don't think is talked about enough, and is probably, I don't know, maybe we're viewed as boring now, but especially before pregnancy, like, I just didn't feel connected with drinking alcohol. Like, it didn't feel like a fun thing for me. It wasn't like that's what I looked forward to doing when I went out with people. Like, it just, it's not something that I really wanted to be much of a part of my life anymore. And I think it's been really good for a variety of things, especially your relationship with your partner, I think, too. When you don't have a substance that you have to consume, or that you're consuming when you spend time with other people, it also improves the relationships around you. And I guess I don't really know why I'm sharing this, I guess, in this episode. I just feel like it needed to be said, because you could be doing all the things right nutritionally, body-wise, and if alcohol consumption is still at a super high level, I think a lot of areas of your health will be affected, even if you're not trying to conceive. So it's just something I thought I wanted to share, and I wanted to just put out there, is think about your liver, think about how you can take extra care of your liver, knowing how much it does for you. Like I said, thyroid, hormone, sperm production, all those things are so important. So just to be aware of that. Pregnancy has been a big blessing, and I'm very blessed to be able to do this and have a body that is really doing well. I'm very energized and feeling really good, and I just don't take that for granted, and I never want to sound ignorant or that I am taking it for granted, because I know how special it is. So I just wanted to put that out there. Think about your liver, love your liver a little. If this is just something, and as you're listening, if it's something that you want to, try for or have happen in the next few years, just think about all these little ways that you can support your system and support your body in a very holistically focused way. Okay, well, I guess it's time to announce gender. This is something I knew I was going to do on the podcast, because I don't know, I love it. I love being able to talk on here, share my own, like I said, personal experiences, personal beliefs. This is not, hopefully this episode didn't come across judgmental, or that you need to follow all of these things that I'm doing or agree with them even, but I just ask for your respect in what I'm deciding to do, and your support, obviously, to just bring a healthy baby into the world. But we had our appointment today to figure out gender. We could have done it earlier. So how this works, and I honestly knew how none of this worked until I got pregnant. But at week 10 is about when you can do a blood test to figure out gender. Week 20 to 21 is when they're going to do an anatomy scan to kind of confirm gender, look at all of the organs, make sure the heart and the kidneys and the legs and the arms and the brain is all just kind of like tracking how it, should be, making sure baby's very healthy. And that was what we had today. And so, of course, I'm recording this on Tuesday, so for you, yesterday. But it was, I just didn't know how it worked. And we really wanted to have the anatomy to confirm. I think for me, if it would have, I would have done a blood test and it was like, oh, it's a boy. And then we got to the anatomy scan and it wasn't a boy. And I would have been like, oh, okay, now I have to change the picture in my head. I have to change my registry. I have to tell people, just kidding. Actually, they were wrong, or it was wrong, because blood tests, of course, nothing. I would like to say the anatomy scan is 100% accurate, but I know that's not always the case. There are those random stories when a baby is born and they were supposed to be a girl and they come out as a boy. And they're like, wait a second, how did we miss this? So I know there are instances that does happen, but I would say it's much more likely to be accurate. And so we just wanted to wait for that. So when we went in for our appointment, I would say that a majority of people thought girl. We had, I think it was 12 to 9, I think is the final score. I had people texting me even on the way to the appointment while I was sitting in the waiting room, like, wait, we think it's a girl, we think it's a boy, here's our vote. And so that was really fun. But more people were leaning towards girl. I will say that I had some dreams probably about 2 years ago that it was just me standing in the kitchen, and Nathan walked into the kitchen and these 2 kids ran in and just gave me a hug, and they were still pretty little, but the girl was taller, blonde hair, blue-eyed, and the boy was shorter, brown hair, brown eyes, obviously mimicking me and my husband very much so. And I just had such a vivid vision of that. So for me, I think I was leaning girl for a long time, and I'm going to be honest, I was going to be really upset if it wasn't a girl. Just thinking about, I kind of had visualized and worked up in my head, okay, what if they tell you it's a girl? It literally made me cry in the moment. And then I was like, okay, what if they say it's a boy? And I'm like, awesome, cool. I guess, I don't know, just not the same level of excitement. But I will say over the last couple of weeks, I definitely had a change of heart and started to feel honestly, obviously, we can't change what it is anyway. And as long as this baby is healthy, it's going to be loved the same. Not as long as it's healthy. That came out wrong. But all I did care about is that this baby was healthy, even if there was a sort of, birth defect or genetic disorder or gender was different than what I expected. This baby is going to be loved the exact same, is what I was meaning to say. I really just want to have that confirmation that baby's healthy, and that's what's important. So when we went into the appointment, I was at peace, and I was like, okay, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with whatever it is. So we were sitting there, and when she was showing the ultrasound, she went over a certain part, and I'm like, I think this is a boy. And so then she was looking again, and then she's like, okay, are you guys ready to know? You want me to just tell you? We're like, yes, just tell us. She's like, all right, well, it's a boy. And we're like, oh my gosh, okay. I'm like, I honestly kind of thought when you scanned over its legs, because she was trying to get a photo of the feet, I'm like, I kind of think that this is a boy, although no, I have no idea what I'm looking for. It just looked like there was a little extra part in one area, and that could be totally off, and maybe it's not really that valid. But Nathan and I both kind of saw it and we're like, I don't know, I kind of thought maybe. But then she confirmed it, and she showed us obviously how she was able to see that. She did a photo of the face, a 3D photo of the face, which is just so sweet. Looks just like my husband, in my opinion, which is a great thing because he's so handsome. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. We'll just have a mini you, and I'm totally cool with it. But it will be fun to have a boy. Obviously very different than what I was anticipating, kind of a change of expectations. But I think that's just a testament to how God knows what we need without us knowing we need it. And just the change in heart and honestly, the peace that I was at with whatever it was over the last couple of weeks is very different than how I felt beginning of pregnancy. I really, really, really wanted a girl first. And of course, I still would hope to have a girl one day, but I just, I'm at peace with it. And I think a big piece of that is just him knowing for whatever reason that I needed a boy first. And of course, we'll find out with time, and it's just going to be the sweetest little boy. My family's excited. My family all really thought boy, even though I think my mom and I both were like, oh, we want girl, but it's okay if it's a boy. Either way, it is going to be so fun, and I'm so excited, and I'm so excited that I can share this chapter and phase of my life with you, and honestly just be open about what I'm doing and transparent about what I'm doing, again, with just an understanding that I am so grateful for the ability to carry this child, and I don't take that for granted ever. Makes me emotional to think about it, and just very, very grateful. So rather than closing today's episode in prayer, I truly just ask for your prayer in the next 20 weeks roughly, that just this pregnancy continues to go smoothly, that baby stays happy and healthy, and that we just enjoy every phase of this process and don't rush it either. I think it's hard not to be like, okay, let's just deliver it. Now we've seen this little outline of its face, I just want to meet them. But no, it's really just kind of for that peace of mind, just prayer for our peace of mind, and that we just enjoy, like I said, all the weeks leading up to delivery, and especially once this baby comes. So just ask that from you, and just also for your support in the whole process. I share this transparently because I do trust you, and just trust the type of people listening to today's episode are just ones that, understand and are very open to different ideas, or just looking for different opinions around certain topics. So thank you for being here. I don't take it for granted. Thank you for spending time listening to today's podcast. If you're interested in following along with my life outside of the podcast, you can find me at Nourish with Bailey on Instagram, Bailey Seaton on almost anything else, definitely most active on Instagram. And if you want to reach out to me personally, you can find my email in the description of today's episode. So with that, I'll talk to you again next Wednesday.